It was reported that during Donald Trump's recent trip to Miami, he visited a Cuban restaurant named Versailles. During his visit, he was mobbed by supporters, and during that time, he declared food for everyone. Less than 10 minutes later, Donald Trump was gone and did not pay for anyone's food. If that isn't the perfect metaphor for Donald Trump as a person, I don't know what is.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Talk About It Tuesdays. And we got T-Mac back for today's episode. And just to add on to that opening video, several Cuban Americans and Cuban immigrants have spoken up. They are now boycotting Versailles, and they make a good point. These are people who fled Castro, and people are now worshiping someone who's mimicking Castro. So Versailles got stiff, just like the McDonald's in Ohio after the train derailment. And now your future profits are in the trash.
I'm just saying, if you're going to do something, make sure you get the payment up front. Don't take nobody's word on it.
Especially not Trump's. He doesn't.
That ain't even worth. His word don't mean even worth 2 cents.
I'll take the word off of a baby that's 2 days old over his. And they can't even formulate words.
I take it off of a boomer who's 2 days older than dirt before I take it out of his.
I don't know. Boomers are. Let me not say nothing, given that I'm married to a boomer.
I know.
But we got some updates to get into. And yes, you guys, we're going to get into the missing submersible and everything. But I do have 2 very important updates to give you all on 2 stories that I've consistently covered. The first one is what's going on in New Bern, Alabama. This is more of giving additional information and showing you how you can help the actual elected Black mayor of New Bern. So let's get into it.
Good morning. New Bern, Alabama. Have you ever heard of it? Probably not. It's only 1.2 square miles and there are only 133 residents. 42 are white, 85 are Black, and 3 are Latino or Hispanic. The most famous former resident is Henry Watson Jr., who moved from Connecticut to set up a cotton plantation where he enslaved 200 people. During the Civil War, Henry Watson Jr. fled to Europe, and when the Confederates lost and he moved back home, he complained that nobody wanted to work anymore. That is a direct quote from the newspaper. Anywho, this town is doing something huge. According to its residents, New Bern had never had an election. But then in 2020, Patrick Braxton ran for mayor and became the first duly elected Black mayor of New Bern, Alabama, which is a majority Black town. And other Black residents ran for city council seats and won. And in November of 2020, the council and Braxton were all sworn into office together. And that should be the end of the story, right? Should be, but isn't. Because the former mayor of New Bern, Woody Stokes, has decided that he's not going to leave, and for the last 3 years has locked Mayor Braxton out of City Hall. But V, you just said there had never been an election. How could there have been a mayor before? Because since the 1860s, somebody in the town just decided they were mayor and then apparently handed it on to one of their friends. There was no election. Now, Woody Stokes' daddy was the constable of this town for 40 years, so I can imagine that's how he got in line. All we know is that there was never an election held and he was never elected mayor. And all of the city council members that he had on his staff also were never elected. They were just appointed. So after Patrick Braxton filed his paperwork, ran the election, was elected by the town to be mayor, the former mayor decided that they would hold a special election on a date that was not publicized. The election was held in an undisclosed location, and the city council filled their own seats and then elected Woody Stokes to be the mayor again. Again, these people never filed paperwork to run for mayor or city council. Bobby Singleton, who is the minority leader in the Alabama State House, is outraged, but he's just about the only one who's fighting for this little town. Reportedly, the Alabama Secretary of State and other leaders have been of no help. And now Mayor Braxton, 3 years after being elected, has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit claiming that Woody Stokes and others have conspired to prevent him from governing. Braxton argues that their conspiracy violates federal law, and his case is tentatively scheduled to be heard in 2024. The state of Alabama has pretty much shown that they're not going to help Braxton and that they are just hoping this all kind of goes away. But you can easily contact the Department of Justice to help bring attention to Mayor Braxton's case. Follow Lee, who is the lead investigator. Follow this creator, who is who I originally heard the story from. Follow this podcast that's been covering it. And follow local journalists in Alabama for up-to-date information.
Now, keep in mind, Alabama, we're just going to talk about recent history, because I could spend 6 podcasts going through the entirety of Alabama's racist history and Alabama's hateful. I'm just going to keep it to the past couple of years. Let's talk about jacked up water. Let's talk about them segregating the legal system in certain places. Let's talk about the governor putting water pumps and fresh water in front of his house. Let's talk about school boards wanting to eradicate Black people and Black history there. This is not surprising that the secretary, nobody is helping. So if you see this, if you hear my voice, contacting the DOJ is just a matter of you filling out some information online. If you know anyone in Alabama, contact them. I have already contacted my friends and family members that are down there because this news is not getting around the state of Alabama. There are people in neighboring cities that don't even know this is going on.
Yeah, that's also please like and share this live so this news can. Please do so across all your platforms if you can, because the more people who know, especially, and tag. Oh, also, if you're sharing it on either like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, please tag the news stations so that they can start to circulate this mess, because if they don't know about it, they're not going to report on it.
Yeah. And we have another update on the apartment collapse. For those of you all that keep messaging me going, why are you following this so closely? Because this could have been you. This could have been me. This could have been anybody. And following this case, if you haven't learned the proper questions and what now to look at an infrastructure and how to see when, the property manager or the landlord, whoever you meet with directly, in order to rent, if they're being sketchy, red flags going up, when you check websites and reports are changing overnight. This could be any of us. But here is a very, very, very important update. And once again, y'all know the theme of this podcast. This is stuff that is not getting the media attention that it should. So please pay close attention.
All right, we have more updates about the Davenport building collapse, specifically slumlord Andrew Wold, who is directly responsible for 3 lives lost in the building collapse. On Friday, he was supposed to show up in court and enter his plea. However, instead, his attorney called the judge and said that he was going to be pleading no contest. For those of you that don't know, no contest means that they accept the conviction without admitting guilt, which they don't want to do because they will be screwed when the lawsuits start rolling in. And this just gives you a little idea of the headspace of the district attorney right now, because they agreed to this as long as he would not transfer the building or other ownership in order to avoid the fees and other costs that's going to come along with that. Because that's what the city is concerned about, not paying for the demolition. Now, Judge Catherine Carty, who is my new favorite person, said, F no. See, Andrew Wold was supposed to show up in court just 4 days before the building collapse for municipal infractions. And because fines are not a deterrent for rich people, he didn't show up for court that day either, leading to a default judgment against him, again, just 4 days before the building collapsed. And now here he was back again after the building collapse for the same thing, not showing up in court. And guess who was the judge for that case? Yep, my new best friend, Catherine Carty. Judge Carty told Wold's attorney that he has to plead guilty or not guilty. Those are the two choices. If the defendant fails to appear, I'll issue a warrant. And then court adjourned for about 15 minutes so that the assistant city attorney could show up and say, no, we had a deal with him. And like a boss, she promptly told him, nope, I'm not approving it. Now yesterday, aka Monday, rolled around and he didn't show up to court again, but his attorney did plead guilty for him. I personally think they should have taught him a lesson and issued a warrant since he didn't show up again, but that's just me. And the most devastating part of this whole thing is that out of all of it, with 3 lives lost, he only has to pay a $300 fine and $95 in court fees. For this. Yeah, it doesn't feel appropriate. In a statement, his attorneys claimed that he acted in good faith and urgency, blah, blah, blah. He put in his time and resources to the building, blah, 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 and relied on professional opinion, which we know isn't true because the original contractor had ordered an eviction back in January. Oh, but this is my favorite part, though. The lawyers say that even though he pled guilty, the municipal infraction does not constitute an admission of negligence. Yes, it does. That's why you were trying so hard to plead no contest in court. All right, I'm going to read through these lawsuits and I'll let you know if I find anything else.
This is why I love that my father was a contractor, because all that stuff about, I have a working knowledge of it because of him. Now, if my father had gone into that building, surveyed that building, as you're supposed to do when you're building, reconstructing, anything, you're supposed to survey the building to see, 1, if it's structurally sound, and 2, if there are updated improvements, you need to update your bid that you put in. So the fact that you had a contractor be like, this isn't really safe, you might want to get these people out of here, really screams red flags to me, because I'm like, sir, you had somebody tell you that and you still did nothing.
Well, it's because,
like, at all.
The mayor, okay, they were supposed to be basically a quick sale of this building. The mayor was involved in this quick sale. That's why the changes were made to the report that was originally on their website.
Not surprising.
So yeah, it's always capitalism above all else. And speaking of capitalism,
oh Lord,
this lovely submersible. First of all, greatest grift ever. Okay, this mofo just MacGyvered together some shit and put it in, but he got in it with them. So you made all that money for what? Your funeral?
Child, listen.
You know what? I'm a little leery. If he's really in here, because authorities from the company are saying we believe he's aboard the vessel. What you mean you believe? Everybody had to sign paperwork. You don't know what your boss look like?
I'm like, you
His
should
picture
know.
is all over the website. His picture is everywhere. But y'all get comfortable. Y'all gonna need some beverages, some snacks. Because we're about to break this all the way down, but there's quite a few videos in order to cover everything. And as always, make sure you check out the links in the description of this video, because there's additional information that I have linked below, especially in today's blog. Y'all know every blog I link in additional information, you're going to need to see that as well. But this ain't my fault that the news is this petty this week, okay? I just want to put that out here because, yeah, all of the headlines, all of the top news stories are very, very petty. That don't have nothing to do with me. Okay, I'm here reporting.
It's your fault. It's your fault, man.
It's always my fault. I learned that last night on Juneteenth. Everything is my fault. Here we go. And y'all, you might want to get out your handy dandy clipboard. I got mine because you don't need to take some notes. Trust and believe. Here we go.
The more I read about this, the more I'm under the impression that this was a giant scam. And I'm just going to go through what I know so far about this thing. They're calling this thing a submersible. It really should be called a DIY Walmart submarine. It's not authorized by any regulatory agency to go underwater. In an interview, the CEO of the company that runs these expeditions said that he got some of the pieces from Camping World. It has no GPS on it. It has no tracker. It has one light. And on top of that, the shit that makes me think this is a scam, the thing that makes it move back and forth left and right is a fucking controller. The same shit you would buy for an Xbox or a PC. It's wireless, so it's battery run. So for all we know, they got down there and the fucking battery died. They just floating. Oh, what are we going to do now? Nobody knows where they are. And he was charging people $250,000 for this bullshit. And the crazy thing is you couldn't even see, you couldn't look out of the submarine and see the Titanic. You had to go, they have a little computer screen in there that you would view the Titanic through. I could have done that shit at home on YouTube. If you didn't think this could get any worse, it actually does. It's bolted. This is the submersible. It's bolted from the outside. It's connected to Elon Musk's Starlink, so it does have some sort of tracking device on. But the tracking device only works when it's above water. So even if the tracking device went out and they're just floating in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere, they would have a lot of the same problems as if they were underneath, deep in the depths of the ocean. I need a submarine expert to tell me, is this a normal thing to bolt a submersible from the outside so that people can't get out? You're way too dependent on somebody to be there to let you out. So these people could be surrounded by air floating in the Atlantic and they would have the same problem. They would literally be suffocating to death surrounded by air. This is another thing that came out. This is the British billionaire Hamish Harding that's on the submersible. And he actually said, he's done this before. If something goes wrong, you are not coming back, when he's referring to deep sea missions that he's done in the past. And then there's a CBS interview where they're talking to the CEO of the company. And listen to this.
And yet, I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
So the pressure vessel is not MacGyver at all, because that's where we work with Boeing and NASA and the University of Washington. Everything else can fail. Your thrusters can go, your lights can go, you're still going to be safe.
The last thing I want to hear from somebody that's taken me thousands of miles into the ocean to see a sunken ship is, it's not MacGyver, it's not improvised. Everything could fail. You good. Yo.
Remember how I said science believes in you whether you believe in it or not? Science is just science. In today's Maybe You Should Listen to the Fucking Experts, New Republic is reporting that an employee was fired after telling the rich people that their window wasn't gonna work. OceanGate didn't want to pay the extra money to make sure the window could sustain 4,000 meters. Oopsie doodle. Drown the rich.
Oh yeah, they're gone.
An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
Ironic that millionaires and billionaires leap at deregulation without realizing why regulations are there to begin with.
Inside, the sub has about as much room as a minivan.
So this is not your grandfather's submersible?
Not your grandfather's submersible. You mean functioning?
Yet, I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
Jesus.
We can use these off-the-shelf components. I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on!
I have built more stable designs with Legos, paste, and a childhood blanket than that submarine. And that man is charging $250,000 a pop to ride on that thing. Do you know how much money I could have made with my little bitty designs if I didn't let a small thing like regulation get in the way? I guess it's there for a reason.
Breaking news, we are just learning that the founder and CEO of OceanGate, the company that owns the lost submersible that went down to view the Titanic wreckage, was recently sued over fraud after failing to return $500,000 for a couple who purchased an expedition after he canceled repeatedly. I'm also still reviewing documents on another lawsuit the company's had for a previous employee who says that the submersible that he was working on was not safe for the depths that it operates at, and that in turn he says he was fired. On this one, we'll focus on the fraud. Around November 28, 2016, Mark and Sharon Hagel said they signed a contract with OceanGate to participate in a trip to view the Titanic wreckage, each paying a deposit of around $10,000 for the trip in June of 2018. According to the Hagels, the contract they signed included 2 additional payments. One was a $40,000 payment that was supposed to be paid after the first dive of Cyclops 2, which was expected to be in October 2017. The second, $55,129 payment, was due about 4 months before the estimated date of their trip. Midway through 2017, the Hagels did not receive any updates from Rush and suspected Cyclops 2 was not going to be ready for its first dive, so they considered a refund. In September 2017, Rush traveled to the Hagels' homes to convince them to keep investing in the trip. According to the Hagels, Rush went into more detail about the planned trip, adding the Cyclops 2 would be ready to launch and that they could still receive a refund at any time. In January 2018, the Hagels said they received new contracts that said they would have to pay the full sum of the trip and not the staggered payments scheduled in their original contracts. The Hagels said, based on their meetings with Rush in September, that they signed the new contracts, and in February 2018 wired $190,258 to OceanGate. According to them, about a month later, OceanGate renamed Cyclops 2 to Titan, which is the same submersible lost in the North Atlantic Ocean. The Hagels said OceanGate canceled their planned 2018 trip aboard the Titan because OceanGate did not have enough time to conduct a full series of test dives to be sure the vessel could reach the Titanic, and rescheduled their trip for July 2019. However, in June 2019, according to the Hagels, OceanGate canceled their trip again, saying its contracted support vessel refused to participate. The trip was rescheduled again for some time in 2020. The Hagels then asked for a refund from Rush for all the money they had paid, which totaled $210,258. According to court documents, Rush began working on a full refund plan. On June 19th, 2019, the Hagels received another cancellation notice saying the Titan was experiencing equipment failure. The trip was rescheduled again for July 2020. On October 24th, 2019, the July 2020 was canceled due to unspecified reasons. Finally, in July 2021, OceanGate demanded the Hagels go on to a July 2021 trip aboard the Titan to see the Titanic. According to the Hagels, when they refused, OceanGate told them they would not be getting a refund. The Hagels are asking for damages, attorney's fees, and court costs. I'll be recording a video about the employee's lawsuit over what he deemed to be an unsafe vessel next. So what has the media gotten right and wrong about the submersible named Titan that has been lost with 5 souls on board who went to explore the Titanic wreckage? On Sunday around 6 a.m., the carbon fiber submersible named Titan went into the sea with 96 hours of oxygen, according to OceanGate, who is based about 90 minutes from here in Everett, Washington. Titan is an experimental vessel. This isn't as sketchy as it sounds, though. CBS's David Pogue got to ride in it and called it MacGyvery, jerry-rigged, and improvised. And some of the components seem worthy of that assessment. He pointed out lighting from Camping World and an off-brand PlayStation controller used to maneuver the vessel. Experimental aircrafts and seaworthy vessels are actually quite common, though not usually controlled by video game controllers. Many small planes you see flying over you daily actually fit into this category. This, by itself, is not cause for concern. The sub's communications to the rest of the world are actually powered by Elon Musk's Starlink. However, it's only designed to work if the sub is on the surface. And that's why this is such an alarming situation. The sub is designed to surface whenever it gets into trouble, so that it connects to Starlink and then can be located. The fact that this hasn't done that has experts sounding the alarm to these possible outcomes. One is that they actually made it to the Titanic, but got stuck inside after deciding to explore the inside of the wreckage. 2 is that it got a catastrophic leak, which would cause it to implode. Or 3 is that it has been incapacitated and is simply drifting in the deep sea currents. All of these also pose a big challenge because only a few submersibles in the world can even go to these depths, and Titan is actually one of them, meaning very few resources are even available for this kind of operation. So what about another possibility? That it actually has surfaced, but for whatever reason hasn't gotten Starlink communications yet. Well, here's one of the potential design challenges. Unlike the subs we see in the movies with hatches that the crew can open from the inside, which would let fresh air in, this is actually sealed from the outside by the charter company with bolts before launching it. There is apparently zero chance that they'll be able to open the door, even if they are bobbing around on top of the surface awaiting rescue. And this is why after Friday, this may turn into a recovery and not a rescue if they've made it this far. So, I now have a copy of the lawsuit filed by David Lockridge, a former employee of OceanGate, who said he was fired after his concerns dating all the way back to 2018 over the submersible's hull safety were not addressed of the exact vessel that is now missing while on expedition to view the Titanic wreckage. The suit says Lockridge warned in 2018 that the sub safety could be compromised by, quotes, poor quality control and safety protocols that, quotes, paying passengers would not be aware of. David Lockridge was OceanGate's former director of Marine Operations and also alleged that he was wrongfully terminated after raising these concerns about the company's refusal to conduct critical, non-destructive testing of the experimental design. These filings say that after OceanGate's CEO Stockton Rush asked Lockridge to do a quality inspection of the submersible, Lockridge developed grave concerns about a lack of non-destructive testing performed on the hull of the Titan. While completing the inspection, Lockridge said he asked co-workers if anyone had formally scanned the materials being used to secure the vessel from the high-pressure environment. Lockridge said he was told that no such scans had been done. Instead, he said, sound-based systems would check for flaws in the hull in real time in order to detect issues. Lockridge said that while he was met with hostility and denial of access to necessary documentation, while completing the inspection report, he submitted it on January 18, 2018. The next day, he spoke before company leadership, including Rush Bonnie Carl, the Human Resources Director, Tony Nissen, the Engineering Director, Scott Griffith, the Operations Director, and raised his concerns. Lockridge said he recommended OceanGate voluntarily seek out regulation and classification through an agency such as the American Bureau of Shipping, which the filings say inspects and certifies submersibles with assurance tests and satisfy industry standard safety controls. But Lockridge said that after the meeting, he was fired. OceanGate then allegedly gave Lockridge approximately 10 minutes to immediately clear out his desk and exit the premises. A court filing says it's unclear whether Lockridge's concerns were ever addressed or whether these scans occurred at a later date. Lockridge's allegations were filed as a countersuit against OceanGate, which had accused him of breach of contract, fraud, and revealing trade secrets. Lockridge denied all of the charges. The case was settled out of court in November of 2018.
Now, it's been a few days since that submarine went missing, and y'all already know they was going to bring some drama. According to the New York Post, the messiest sister on the block, they posted this article that said the stepson of the billionaire who's missing on that Titanic sub, he attends a Blink-182 concert amid looking for his stepfather. Now, the article starts off and says, as crews race against the clock to locate and rescue the passengers of the submersible that vanished while visiting the Titanic wreck, the stepson of one of the missing didn't let the unfolding ordeal keep him from one of his passions, rocking out to Blink-182. They messy. His name is Brian Sazas, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I apologize. He's the stepson to the billionaire Hamish Harding, and he's one of the 5 people who was trapped on that submersible that went to see the Titanic wreckage. Now, they said on Monday he had attended a Blink-182 concert in California. Now, he posted on Facebook, just messy. Just messy. So he posted on Facebook and he said, it might be distasteful being here, but my family would want me to be at a Blink-182 show as it's my favorite band and music helps me in difficult times. The son, Brian, included a picture of himself smiling in a Blink-182 shirt in front of the official merchandise tent at the show. Then he finished the caption with a black heart, honey, and praying hands. So that's him right here. Just, man, yo daddy missing. Yo daddy is missing. And here's the caption. You can pause to read it. Now, the New York Post said 20 minutes before he went to that Blink 182 concert, the son Brian announced that his stepfather, Hamish Harding, was one of the 5 passengers aboard the missing submarine. So after he announced that his stepdaddy was one of the missing passengers, he then posted another picture of himself at a Blink 182 concert. Man, listen, if there are more updates in regards to this story, we're going to keep track of it, especially this son, because come on, man. Like, come on. I think the consensus is everyone understands that we have to deal with trauma and things that are catastrophic in different manners. But you didn't actually have to post yourself at the Blink 182 concert. I think that's the whole consensus. You didn't have to post it. You could have attended, but maybe posting it a little bit too early should have not occurred.
First of all, I have given y'all the cliff notes when Mary Trump was exposing rich people. They don't give a fuck about each other, okay? They give a fuck about how they look to everybody below them, but they don't really like each other. And that's his stepdaddy. So all I hear in the back of my mind, that ain't my real daddy. He was not missing that concert, okay? He been waiting on this. See, y'all keep thinking that money equates to intelligence, that you have to have great intelligence to have money. But if that was true, there would not be so many intellectuals that are broke. That man is waiting for his stepdaddy to die because he knows his mama is going to give him access to things he ain't had access to before. And first of all, look, this is a billionaire who's at the top of this company, is a billionaire who admits that he piecemealed the fuck out of this and put it together. And these motherfuckers was like, yeah, that's a good idea. That shows y'all that white people are so privileged that their only way of feeling any type of oppression or feeling alive is dying.
So, in the immortal words of J-Lo, don't be fooled by the rocks that I got.
I don't give a fuck. I don't know why y'all think that millionaires and billionaires give a damn about their family. These are people who will hire nanny after nanny after nanny, send their kids off to boarding school. They will bribe admission specialists to get their kids off to college. These are people who named their own children that have to be reminded when the child was born and what the fuck the child's name is, let alone anything else.
Yeah, now we do have some outliers, but not all of them.
Name a generational wealth millionaire that gives a damn. We're not talking about new money.
I'm not talking about that.
We're not talking about new money.
Okay.
We ain't talking about when we get money. We're not talking about when we get money because we actually have to work quadruple hard to get that money. And we don't trust nobody, okay? We barely trust somebody to come in and clean out the refrigerator, okay? Because, you know, even if we hire somebody to do our laundry, there's certain aspects of the laundry they ain't going to never see or touch. We'll have a whole separate... Yeah, that's all, Beatrice. That's all the laundry. That's all. And then we in the closet pulling out the rest of it, doing it. No.
I just say this. I'm just like, I don't understand. I understand because they're stupid. And I said that with my whole chest. They're stupid. I'm just like, it just fascinates me that people will do the stupidest things and expect sympathy. I'm just like, sir, madam, you chose this. Ain't nobody hold you hostage. Ain't nobody twist your arm.
But these are people that you have to realize they were born disconnected from the real world.
No, they about to get connected real quick.
And I need y'all to understand something about old money. Because people always question me how I can tell the difference between new money and old money, especially when new money is trying to pretend to be old money or no money is trying to pretend to be money. Old money will finagle, ask for discounts. They'll be the Karens. That I didn't like this meal, but ma'am, sir, you ate the whole thing. Can you take it? They don't want to pay for things that they should, but they will spend a small fortune on dumb shit. the dumbest of shit. They will look and dress and seem homeless as hell, but will drop more than the average United States resident or citizen makes in a year on the dumbest. They will spend thousands of dollars on a damn Tiffany safety pin.
Wait.
Ask for extension after extension after extension on a gas and electric bill. They will fire their house chef because they don't want to fix a faulty pipe in the back of their stove.
Wait. So we're now selling this lovely Fabrize.
I'm telling you, that's what I know every single time. Old money is the type that will have on, first of all, and this will let you know how I grew up. And you know this for a fact, cousin. I loathe things with the label all over it.
Oh,
Yes, I love my designer bags, but y'all won't catch me with a designer bag with like the logo all over it. Most of the time you see me with a bag, unless you all up in it or you just know your bags or your shoes, you wouldn't know who the designer is. That's how old money is. They're wearing designers you ain't heard of. You ain't heard of. They got labels in colors you ain't seen. Color coding is a real thing. And when people sit there and go, well, I'm going out in the yard in some Gucci. Okay, that's what the gardener wears at Lilibeth's house. Because as much as people clown Adam Sandler for how he dresses, if you broke apart where he was getting those clothes from and those designers, yeah, you choke on everything. Why do you think you never see any sweat stains on this man? They're using breathable fabrics that we don't even have access to. And like the dress shirts that Prince Harry wears, and everybody's going berserk about it. You want to know how the wealthy knows the quality of shirt that he's wearing? There's a little bitty bumblebee that's stitched into one particular part of the shirt that you wouldn't even think to look at. But there are people that I know, like my closet, and my cousin can confirm this. If y'all were on my OG TikTok account, I did do a look-see at my closet and how it's organized. I have things organized by category and by color. I've known people who claim to me that they've been for money their whole life, and their closet is categorized by designer items and non-designer items. How you been around money your whole life and you're separating by designer and non-designer?
okay. I'm gonna say this. I'm not. I don't live in the associated circles that my cousin lives in. I'm not there yet. But even I know you like from the little bitty clothes I do buy, from little bit of Target and other assorted places.
First of all, we love
Who shall
Target.
remain nameless.
We love
I'm not saying they Target, but I'm just like, baby. First of all, get things that compliment your body. That's the first thing. Let's do that.
Say it again for the
Don't
people.
don't stop shopping at Baby Gap. Stop shopping at Tiny People's or Us. Please stop doing
shopping
that
at
to
Forever
yourself.
Delusional.
I'm like, if you are a big boy like myself, get stuff that'll compliment you. Like, okay, there's a place, and I haven't shopped there yet, but I've heard good things. It's called True Classic T-shirts. They they're good for big people like me, and they're good for skinny people too. So I'm gonna send you there. Girl, I ain't had the money because if I had the money, I'd be shopping there all day.
I mean,
But
Hazisms.com is good for all sizes of people too. I'm just saying.
yes, I know. I'm aware of you.
And so is Petty University. If y'all,
Good Lord. But but yeah, no, it's just like I'm just saying, people out here, y'all really think Like, look at them when they go to, look at how people with money and know how to handle their money, because it's a difference. Dress when they go to a premiere versus when they're just out on their own. They are not out. Like, people who know how to handle their money, they are not out here in the street like Adam Sandler, like even Jay-Z, to his craziness. They are not out here in these streets just flossing designers all over themselves. They are literally out here in the most undiscovered shenanigans you will ever see in your life. Now, I can't speak for his wife because we barely see her out on the street. Let's be real. Like, when's the last time you saw Beyonce out on the street on a regular day?
Okay, full disclosure, I'm not going to give a city or a state or any of that. But when visiting family, including in-laws, I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of y'all have seen Beyonce out there, didn't realize it was Beyonce, and didn't realize that she was dripping head to toe in luxury.
But I'm saying, see, and here's the thing: she has her glam self, which what we see all the time.
Yeah, but even the casualness can take so much, because, well, you know the crew that I go to the music festivals with, and they always tease me because they're like, people see you.
Spray you are being.
People like they'll say like, oh, people see you in graphic tees and don't realize the money you put into your graphic tees, or they see me in leggings and they don't realize how much I put into my leggings, because I don't want to buy new leggings every season. You feel me? I want them to last.
Who wants to do that?
But when I step out, then your girl got a little coin.
Mm-hmm. Because like saying in any case, because I know we got other stuff we got to talk about, and you got to run the ad. These people really, really need to start using their brain. I'm like, my God,
they don't have
what
any brain.
what?
These are people who other people have been paid to take their classes, take their tests. Mom and daddy are greasing the wheels to get them into these Ivy Leagues, or their legacy students that really don't qualify. So there is no brains used.
Speaking of that, because I don't know if you saw it, the whole shenanigans with the Asian student who got a 1590 on his SATs.
He's already in college, and you do realize that lawsuit and the student debt lawsuit, those are not being put on by individuals; they're being put on by companies. And I'll give you two guesses as to what the companies are.
The loan officers.
I'm just saying, Fannie Mae got some friends.
I'm just saying. Like, they don't want that debt forgiven. Shoot.
And they don't. And the thing about it is, and the other company is basically a company that, when I looked into it, this is the Cliff Notes version, because it's too much to just go into in detail. It's basically a company that protects legacies, basically. So these kids know that they can be lackluster in school if their parents buy a library or put some statues up that they're good. But speaking of dumb legacy students, they got the wheels greased for them and was told that they was the greatest thing since sliced bread and Betty White. Once again, Donald Trump just keeps handing the DOJ a slam dunk of victory, but this time it happened via Fox. Yeah, y'all, Fox handed Trump his ass. Take a look. It's in a book.
Donald Trump does not know when to keep his mouth shut, as a clip from his interview with Brett Baier today on Fox News will illustrate. Trump has struggled to get reputable lawyers to represent him, and this is why.
Classified. I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act. This is not a criminal thing. In fact, the New York Times of all had a story just the other day that the only way NARA could ever get this stuff this back would be, please, 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 could we have it back?
And they
please,
asked for that.
because they have no.
They did ask for it.
No, and
That was the former president saying that Nara should have begged to get the files. In further unhinged talk, Trump also claimed that Joe Biden didn't give the files back when asked. He did, still falsely claims that he won the 2020 election, and then word vomited and made the special prosecutor's life easier when Barr nudges him on the recording of him telling an employee he was holding classified documents and the employee couldn't get too close.
You could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't. You know, this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this on tape,
it says just the opposite,
that you can't declassify it. So why have it?
When I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify.
And that's what you said. You didn't declassify it.
I said no. I said I couldn't.
Could have
but that wasn't a
declassified it.
document, Brett. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things. And it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles.
I'm just saying what the indictment says.
Well,
the recording and the people in the room who testified.
These people are very dishonest people. They're thugs. They're thugs. If you look at what they've done to other people, what they've done to, and overturned in the U.S. Supreme Court, these are thugs. These are
Wow, Donald Trump was just badly embarrassed live on TV. Fox News host Brett Baier called Trump out on his lie to his face that he hires the best people by listing all of Trump's former employees who now oppose him. The clip is great. Take a look at it.
In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people.
Well, I did do that.
This
and we
time,
had tremendous. Look, we had the best economy we've ever had. The world has ever seen.
Your Vice President, Mike Pence, is running against you.
Yeah.
Your Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, she's running against you. Your former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said he's not supporting you. You mentioned National Security Advisor John Bolton. He's not supporting you either. You mentioned Attorney General Bill Barr, says you shouldn't be president again, calls you the consummate narcissist and troubled man. You recently called Barr a gutless pig. Your second Defense Secretary is not supporting you, called you irresponsible. This week, you and your White House called your White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, weak and ineffective and born with a very small brain. You called your acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, a born loser. You called your first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, dumb as a rock, and your first Defense Secretary, James Mattis, the world's most overrated general. You called your White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh Canadian, milquetoast, and multiple times you've referred to your Transportation Secretary, Elaine Chao, as Mitch McConnell's China-loving wife. So, why did you hire all of them in the first place?
Because I hired 10 to 1 that were fantastic. We had
Girl, I had to run downstairs and get a snack.
Did y'all catch that he said that there weren't documents, but then he just described documents using other words?
Again, girl, I had to go get a snack. It was so good.
But real quick, we're gonna move on to the next segment. No, we're not gonna run the ad today. Y'all know sometimes that's what I do. Y'all know where to get it. Taz-isms, ISMS.com. Go on through there. The freedom discount is running over the top. If you forgot the discount code, it is still there. I don't care if you're the skinniest of the skinniest or you are the thickums of the thickums. And if you thick, come home. Let me see. But you know, to distract Trump continuously cooking his own goose, and now Fox Entertainment News cooking his goose, they're focused on Hunter Biden. But let's take a look at what Hunty Hunt really did. And y'all know that they keep talking about the laptop and wanting to keep the laptop and look at stuff because Marjorie Taylor Greene let it slip. It's a bunch of porn on there. He was making porn videos and putting them on the porn hub to make money. So I guess he must be endowed for them to be this But here we go. Let's go into this plea deal. Here we go.
Okay, happy Tuesday morning. I cut myself shaving this morning. It's about 20 after 7 West Coast time. Lots of news going on this morning. Lots of news. Hunter Biden has entered a plea agreement where he's going to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges, and he's going to go into a diversion program for basically being a drug addict in possession of a handgun. Diversion means that he pleads guilty to it, he completes some probation type stuff, and then that charge will not appear on his permanent record. And relative to the 2 misdemeanor tax charges, there was a possibility that one of them could have become a felony charge. That's not going to happen. And by pleading guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges, and from what I understand, he's already made up the deficiencies in his back tax payments. He's already brought those current. So he's very, very, very likely going to avoid any prison time at all. Couple things. The reaction on the left, nobody cares. We just don't care because we're not in a cult of personality. If Hunter Biden broke the law, he should be treated as anyone else. And by all accounts, it appears that the DOJ has done that. The reaction on the right, they are losing their collective mud. They're like, this is a 2-tier justice system. Look what they're doing to Trump compared to what they're doing to Hunter Biden. There's absolutely no comparison between the 2 cases. None. Zero. They have nothing to do with each other. They're completely different animals in every way, shape, and form. But here is one point that the right is going to ignore. They're screaming that this is further example of the politicization of the DOJ and the FBI and the IRS, and that Joe Biden personally put this deal together. He had nothing to do with it. The U.S. attorney who handled this case, who's been running this investigation into Hunter Biden for the last 5 years, since 2018, was handpicked by and was appointed by Donald Trump. That's right. And Merrick Garland, recognizing the political issues involved in prosecuting the son of the president, basically treated that U.S. attorney in this case like a special prosecutor. He didn't interfere. He didn't intervene. He was not involved in the investigation of the prosecution at all. This is 100% a hand-picked Trump U.S. attorney who put this deal together for Hunter Biden. So they can,
It's official. Hunter Biden, the son of current President Joe Biden, has pled guilty to federal charges.
Yeah, John, this 5-year-long investigation now coming to a head. We have learned from new court filings at the U.S. District Court here in Wilmington, Delaware, that Hunter Biden has agreed to plead guilty to multiple criminal charges.
Okay, so for all those Republicans that just can't seem to stop crying over the weaponization of government, let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Biden's Department of Justice just secured a guilty plea of his own son. That's super politicized. Let's check in with Kevin McCarthy in the GOP.
My first reaction is it continues to show the 2-tier system in America. If you are the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal. Now, this does nothing to our investigation. It actually should enhance our investigation because the DOJ should not be able to withhold any information now, saying that because of pending investigation, they should be able to provide Chairman Comer with any information that he requires.
Yes, the old 2 tiers of justice defense. Because in one tier, you go after someone who committed crimes, and in another tier, you go after someone who committed crimes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how the law works. When you commit crimes, you're held accountable, regardless of who you are. And let's not forget this very important detail. That sweetheart deal that Kevin McCarthy claims Hunter Biden got was negotiated and agreed to by a U.S. attorney appointed by Donald Trump. And for the record, Donald Trump could have absolutely taken a plea deal in the documents case had he only listened to his lawyers. Instead, he listened to his non-lawyers, and now he's in this predicament called fuck around and find out.
And for those of you staunch conservatives that keep bringing up that Lil Wayne's charges were just as egregious and the same as Hunter Biden's, no, they weren't. Lil Wayne lied about his drug use on a gun permit application. And let us not forget that Lil Wayne paid the $2 million to Trump's administration, aka Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, to get a pardon. That's why Lil Wayne no longer, already a convicted felon, did not get the 10 years that he was facing. So, yeah, no. But if you want to talk about a two-tiered justice system, y'all want to know what happened the same time as Trump was being arraigned for his latest indictments, when it was simultaneously happening that the fake electors were testifying in Georgia? You want to know what the GOP was doing? Y'all ever heard of fake congressional hearings? Oh, you haven't? Let me show you what they look like.
Holy shit. The Republicans are actually holding pretend congressional hearings. That's not a misspeak on my part. They are holding pretend congressional hearings. Watch this.
Now, you may have missed this. In fact, you probably missed this, but this week we saw one of history's great split screen moments. On Tuesday, at the exact same time that former President Trump was being arraigned in Florida, not only were fake electors from Trump's plot to overturn the 2020 election testifying before special counsel Jack Smith's January 6th grand jury, but at the same moment, congressional Republicans were holding their own bizarro hearing about January 6th. Now, the witnesses for Tuesday's January 6th hearing ranged from January 6th rioters all the way up to Jeffrey Clark, the person Trump wanted to appoint as his acting attorney general in the final days of his administration so that Jeffrey Clark could declare the election stolen. Now, the hearing opened with a video that was edited like a newsreel from the start of a horror film with distorted colors and a creepy soundtrack. And it suggested that January 6th was actually an inside job perpetrated by the deep state. But here is the thing about this. It wasn't a real hearing. This hearing was chaired, and I'm using vocal air quotes there, by Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is not actually the chair of a congressional committee. But on Tuesday, he pretended he was. He brought in his witnesses, and he used all the formal lingo that they use in these congressional committee hearings. He told people they were recognized for various amounts of time and that their time had expired. And that was all sort of beside the point because there was no actual allotted time for any of this, because it was just something that Matt Gaetz was doing on his own in the hopes that someone somewhere would pay attention to it.
All of the testimony from today and all of the record that is being kept today will be available for members to submit for the official record of the House. We're going to proceed with the second round, and we'll begin with Gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
This has been a highly productive endeavor, and we stand adjourned.
We stand adjourned. It was like Model UN, but instead of high schoolers mocking up a hearing on the crisis in Kashmir, it was Matt Gaetz and a bunch of MAGA celebrities trying to gaslight the public.
What? What? I mean, put aside, Jesus fucking Christ, you could land a plane by that computer light. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Let's put aside for a moment that the video montage that began this hearing made January 6th out to be, as you heard in the video, an inside job, but yet one of the people who was at this hearing, Marjorie Taylor Greene, continuously visits the Jan 6 prisoners and says that they're being treated unfairly and that they should all be pardoned. So is Marjorie Taylor Greene advocating for pardoning members of the deep state who committed an inside job? Anyway, put that to the side for a moment. Who the fuck does this? Who has a fake congressional hearing with fake witnesses and I oh my God. Oh. If they could, MAGA Republicans would just set up a whole new government, do away with the one we have, and install the guy they want for life. They're pretending to have congressional hearings. What the fuck?
And the saddest part is the people who were there to witness it, they knew that they weren't on Capitol Hill. They knew that the vast majority of even Republicans in Congress weren't there. But these people will eat it up and go, well, no, there was a congressional hearing and they interviewed such and such and they did. If grasping for straws were a collection of people. You're muted.
I'm trying to formulate a sentence that will not get us shut down. But what level of stupidity do you have to be working on? And see, this is why he said he likes uneducated people. The more uneducated you are, you'll take anything for the truth. And I'm just like, my God, people, I'm just like, y'all will sit here and say that the people who are trying to get this country to work properly, at least trying, making an effort. Oh, they're lying. They're this, that, and the third. But you don't realize this man tripled the national debt by what was it, like $9 billion? Was it 9? But you're saying the inflation, which again is global. It's not just confined to the United States. It's global. You know, the entire world is going through inflation. You know, because the 1% doesn't like to share. I mean, make it make sense. Because we're trying to get everybody back, or at least get everybody on a board so that we can, move in the right direction. But y'all want to hold people up because y'all are uncomfortable. Because you're uncomfortable. That's the reason that things can't get done, because y'all refuse to be uncomfortable.
Oh no, they're not uncomfortable. They're scared shitless. They were in bed with all of these shenanigans. Part of the shenanigans people have gotten away with since politics began in the United States. But see, they kept upping the ante and upping the ante, because you know how it is. When you get away with something the first time and other people see you get away with it, they're like, oh, well, she stole a Snickers bar. I'm going to steal 2. Well, I'm going to steal 3. I'm going to steal the whole box. I'm going to go and get the Snickers bar and the hoodie from the back. Oh, I'm going to get the Snickers bars, the hoodie, and I'm going to get some jeans. And they keep upping the ante. And now they've upped the ante. And they forgot that since, we have a Secretary of Education, but we don't have nationalized education. We don't have a nationalized plan for school. So you have some school systems that are teaching people better than others. And since the elevation of the internet, everything is at people's fingertips. So you got people that are curious that are like, you know what? We kind of learned about this in school. I want to know a little bit more. And that's what they're doing, scrambling to cover their own ass. And if y'all think I'm joking, here's a quick little snippet. I'm not even going to pull us from the feed because this is less than a minute. We have a sitting congressman who's willing to have his bond revoked and him sit in jail other than to snitch on his benefactors.
An order has been affirmed by a federal judge to unseal the names of those who bonded out George Santos. But George has stated that he would rather go to jail and forfeit that bond, give it back, than to name who paid his bond. I'm guessing there's some big names. Might be a big deal. But that's not going to happen until Thursday. We'll know Thursday if we're going to find out who bonded him out or if George goes to jail. Either one is a win-win for us.
I mean,
And that's what it's about. It's not them being uncomfortable with the rhetoric that they spew. At this point, because they thought that Trump was going to be able to pull a Nixon, and then they forget how many safeguards were put in place because of Nixon. Because I will say this: the United States will let some things get out of hand, but then they're like, this is affecting white folks. Let's fix this. And at this point, you're going to start seeing some turnabout because now Trump is affecting some white folks.
And see that it shouldn't get to that level. It really shouldn't. But anytime at all something happens to them, oh my gosh, now it's a serious problem. Because when we were going through okay, I'll say this. When the AIDS epidemic in the 80s hit, since it was mainly in the community, they made it an otherism. Like, we're not affected. But as soon as it started coming for the cis hetero straight white people, oh my God, we have to do something. We got to get the medicine out. I was like, well, you should have did that when you could have contained it. But now it's out of control, and now it's affecting everybody. Now it's out of control. Now what you gonna do?
Here's the thing: there's presidents that the GOP just puts up on a pedestal. No, I'm not going to add Abraham Lincoln to this because, first of all, GOP, stop taking credit for that man. He created his own political party, ran on it, and
Say it
won.
one more time.
But it's Reagan, Nixon, and now Trump. All of them have the same amount of brain cells. Okay, all of them have
Not
the
that
same
many.
rhetoric. All of them have the same platform.
Law and order.
And they all deal with catastrophic events the same way. They lie about it at first. They deny it. It gets out of hand. They get out of office and go, it wasn't me.
Like, I couldn't believe. I could believe. I'm not gonna say I couldn't believe, but when I saw that from your show, that he literally went there and had them hold those people until he got into office, just so he can say he got them out. I was just like, how diabolical do you have to be?
No, it's just a matter of how white you are.
I was like, you put that man, oh God, what was his name? The president before him.
Before which one?
I guess who he was racing with.
Which one? They all do the same stuff.
No, I mean the one who was trying to get the people out, but he couldn't during that race. I don't know what his name is. He just passed.
They all did the same thing.
Okay, the person who just passed away. I'm guessing Gerald Ford, something like that.
Oh, Nixon?
No, Jimmy. Is it Jimmy Carter? I think his name is.
Jimmy Carter's still in hospice. He's still holding on. He like my auntie that was in hospice 3 different times before she finally decided to give up the ghost. Honestly, I think she just wanted to get the conclusion to some good family gossip before she left.
Shade.
I'm just saying, the day that she got the ending to the family soap opera of that time, then she was like, I'm out.
I'm just saying. I'm just like, and see, this is why I said what I said in my video. I'm gonna speak very briefly there, and I said it's just amazing how you expect people to turn around and say thank you for the system you created, and well, your big brother created it. You enhanced it and made it worse. Biggest marketing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they marketed it. They marketed. They didn't even have a PR firm back in that day.
The
They
United
marketed
States
it.
is nothing but one gigantic PR form. Its
True. You're
marketing
right.
itself is something that it has not been since its inception.
Very true. And I said, well, if you want to talk about the things that you've done, how about this? Why don't we talk about again the multiple diseases that you've crossed across multiple inhabited continents? Hmm? How about that? Or let's talk about the constant thievery of land, resources, ideas that were again not yours, but you thought you could take them.
Let's talk about the epidemics throughout the United States. And the only reason white people still exist is because black people took benevolence upon them and took care of them because their white counterparts would flee cities and states to avoid them. Even medical professionals who took what oath, y'all?
The Hippocratic Oath.
And all it shows is that they're hypocrites. You know. But for our final story of the night, and we got to get to this before we end it. The rest of the things, we'll deal with tomorrow. Uh Biden had a very, very in your face, unadulterated conversation regarding AI. And I need y'all to learn how to detect AI and deep fakes, first of all. Before I get into the video, look at the limbs. Usually there's an extra hand, extra foot, extra fingers. The mouth will not move in conjunction with the words. I'm not talking about a delay. We've all been on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and seen a video that the audio got messed up, but you can match the no. It'll be like I'm saying, "Hey y'all," but it'll go, "I hate you" in the audio. You get what I'm putting down? And there'll be stuff that's out of the ordinary. Too many fingers, too many toes, too many hands, too many legs, too many feet. It, you'll see somebody who has zero tattoos and somebody tries to make an AI of them, and then all of a sudden they got a whole sleeve. But take a look.
It's really important that political leaders level with you about how much your life is about to change because of artificial intelligence. This is an enormous tidal wave, and it's going to make landfall years before we thought it would. No one knows if this is going to create more jobs than it obsoletes, but I'm on the Science and Tech Committee, and what I've seen is that the entire tech sector is sprinting this direction because they believe that the winners get to stay in business and the losers don't, which means we are being pushed into a full-scale technological revolution. You're about to see AI everywhere, including politics. There will be lots of high-quality deepfakes in this election. There are safeguards being developed for that kind of misinformation. I've talked to different groups who are working on them, but they're in early stages, and I don't think they're going to be ready in time for this election, so you have to be really careful with video clips on social media, like this. Be more careful when you hear from me about whether it's actually me. There's not a great solution to this right now other than your skepticism. On the other hand, our committee's hearing from people saying that regulation of AI could go too far and block all of this innovation. But that's not going to happen, and I'll tell you why. The political will in Congress to do some big regulation of AI just isn't remotely there. The much greater chances that we'll end up doing basically nothing, as we did with the internet and social media and cryptocurrency. So if getting Congress to do anything is going to be really hard, what's the most important thing about AI that we absolutely have to get right? To me, the top of the list is guarding against the intentional misuse of AI, like creating new biological or cryptological weapons. I won't go into detail about that for obvious reasons, but there are some really bad scenarios that could be unlocked, and we need safeguards in place against them right now. So that's what I'm working on, and I'm going to keep you posted.
There have already been some incredible, well, there have already been some deep fakes of people in politics already. I brought them to you all on this podcast and shown you how to determine that they're fakes. Where people have had press conferences from their office and someone has just changed the audio, not even changed the mannerisms, just changed the audio. And I've shown you how the audio doesn't even match up to the movement of the lips because AI, the lips move like this all the time. There's no, because when you regularly talk, like when I talk, my mouth is not just up and down. If I say oh or you, see the inflection. AI cannot replicate that. But, and people are afraid that artificial intelligence is going to take over jobs. I also showed y'all a video. Artificial intelligence, aka AI, is meant to learn and adapt. There was an AI robot created to do the work of someone in a warehouse. The AI terminated itself because they knew that entity knew that the requirements put on it was not only inhumane, but the requirements and the goals were impossible. And the AI was like, I don't want to exist like this. So if you think AI doesn't want to exist like this, what makes you think that a human being wants to? And that's the problem with a capitalistic society. You're constantly looking at profits instead of the people. Let me repeat, the people who bring you the profits. So you stores, you retailers, everybody, the customers always all right. Just give no. You're setting your employees up for more abuse, and you wonder why your turnover is the way that it is. Nobody is set up to be a slave. Nobody is set up to be a whipping post. So stop. Just give them what they want because they will keep upping the ante and upping the ante. And then you're going to have to keep upping prices and slashing hours. Who wants decreased pay and decreased hours? And who's going to shop at your stores if the prices, or your restaurants, if the prices keep increasing because you are trying to accommodate 5 patrons that keep coming in acting a full blown ass and you keep letting them get away with it? On top of that, when it comes to AI, the Grammys had to issue that AI generated songs cannot win Grammys, which I understand because somebody did an AI fake of a collaboration with Drake. That was a banger. It was better than anything Drake ever put out. Now, I'm definitely biased because I ain't never really been a Drake fan. I think he just cries on the track like Taylor Swift, and y'all eat it up because y'all heartbroken and y'all sappy in the heart and y'all just what the fuck ever. Because Taylor Swift will fuck over a dude and then play victim on a record. And we know that Drake has a propensity for underage girls. So he's trying to stick his dangalang in there and he's getting shut down because the parents are like, bitch, get the fuck away from my 12, 13-year-old daughter. And he want to write a song about it. And AI was like, you know what? If an actual grown man had his heart broken, this is what the fuck the song was going to sound like. And the shit was a banger. But I digress. I don't
I'm just
think
saying this.
takeover of AI as far as jobs is not going to be what people think it's going to be. And AI, just like Google, just like search engines, needs human interaction to build upon it. It needs human input to build upon it. And the thing about it is, AI doesn't know how to mimic the human form, the human body. Like I said, it gives you extra limbs and it has you talking like this. Like, is this a dick sucking simulation or is this you trying to make it seem like I said something I didn't? And these AI generators that people just type, yeah, I did some bomb shit. You did some basic shit. This is from somebody working in IT. You did some basic shit. It's just that the country has gotten so basic that you can say anything to somebody and they're willing to cut off a friend or a family member because they think that you got some good hot gossip that don't make no goddamn sense. That'd be like somebody going, well, you know, at 9:52 on No, I'm sorry, 9:32 on Tuesday. I seen Taz dancing on the bar at the Mexican Grill, knowing that from 9 to 10 at least I'm live on air on YouTube. Y'all catch what I'm putting down? Go ahead, cousin.
Just saying. I keep saying this, and I don't know if anybody believes me, but I'm just like, y'all keep thinking that what happened in 1999 in The Matrix is what's going to happen. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's a movie based on a book. It's not real.
A collection of black women, but we'll talk about that on another day.
I'm just like, you guys really need to stop thinking that. I make a joke. When I'm working when I'm at my job, and I say, oh, these computers, and I said, see, the Matrix warned us, and I'm just, again, I'm making a joke to lighten the mood, but I know at this particular point in time, like I said, if that was a possibility, so would time travel be. Let's be real. Let's call a spade a spade. Time travel would be already a possibility by now.
We would be living the Jetsons lifestyle at this point. Where's my robot maid? First of all, we don't need flying cars because you motherfuckers can't drive on the road, and we already have a lost in deep space. I
mean, I'll say that.
Because my dog.
I'll say that.
Crackhead.
I will say this. We thought by the year 2000 that's where we would be. We did think that. I'm not gonna lie.
When I originally watched the Back to the Future series and all of the things that they expected to have in the future, I had so many people
2015, by the way.
I had so many people criticize me because I was like, you have too much faith in humanity. You think that people are really smarter than what they are. I said, first of all, we're dispelling theorems and hypotheses of people who came before us, but it's taken way too long to dispel them, because when I would hear about stuff, I'm like, y'all didn't dispel this in 5 minutes? Why did it take y'all 500 years to realize this was bullshit? Like, by the time you realized it was going on, you had already lived a good bit of life. And I'm like, these are motherfuckers who couldn't even figure out how to properly get a Band-Aid to stick on the skin. But you thought that they was going to create... Okay, all right. Okay. That's when I knew that society was doomed. That folks was looking at TV shows and cartoons and legitimately thinking, oh, in this year, this is what we going to go... And on top, in believing that this is the technology we were going to have. I remember Y2K, that because we were moving into the year 2000, people were proudly getting on national, international news, talking about how they done stockpiled all this shit. They got a bunker. They ready for Mad Max to happen. I can't. All right, final thoughts on the night?
I think I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you is frozen, but you only froze at the very end. So, final thoughts?
I'm gonna say this, my lovely people. Please read. Please reread. Please make sure you get good sources for your materials that you're trying to research, because they would have.
Okay. I guess he has technical difficulties on his end. So I'm just going to say thank you for joining. Make sure if you learned anything or you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you share it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and turn on notifications. And as always, check out the links in the description of the video. And I'm going to leave you with this. Each one teach one, each one reach one. Till tomorrow.
Oath Keeper's lawyer who made infamous Lord of the Rings argument in pro-Trump lawsuit deemed mentally incompetent for her January 6th trial. Shocking, isn't it?
you.